The polished mahogany table felt like a slab of ice. My boss, Graham, slid a single sheet of paper towards me. A smug, almost pitying smirk on his face. He said they could get 3 junior engineers for my salary. That it was nothing personal. Just cost-cutting. My name is Victor Hale. For 18 years, I was the lead systems engineer at Valaria Housing. I built their entire infrastructure from the ground up. I made them millions. I took the termination paper. I nodded. I said thank you. What Graham didn't understand was that he wasn't just firing an employee. He was pulling the one linchpin holding his entire multi-million-dollar company together. And I decided to do absolutely nothing to stop it from falling apart. Have you ever been betrayed? Have you given years of your life to a company only to be thrown away like yesterday's trash? To be told you're not worth the money. If you know that feeling of pure disrespect, then hit that like button right now. Subscribe and get ready for a story of the quietest, the most professional, and the most devastating revenge imaginable. This is the story of how a single termination meeting led to a corporate collapse. My life was Valaria Housing. 18 years. I started when it was a tiny company called Bayview Properties. They had 4 apartment complexes and a dial-up internet connection. The owner, Harold Bay, hired me himself. He said, build us something solid, so I did. Brick by digital brick, I designed every server. I wrote custom code for their unique needs. I built an integrated property management system that handled everything from tenant screening to rent collection across 63 properties. I was there for every expansion, every upgrade, every crisis. I missed family dinners. I worked holidays. My wife Elaine would just sigh and say, Dad's working became our kids' normal. I promised her it was for our future, and it worked. The company grew from a small family firm into a regional powerhouse, Valaria Housing. When Harold retired his son, Justin sold to a private equity firm. They kept me on. At first, but then the culture changed. Quarterly targets. Profit margins. New executives in designer suits who'd never gotten their hands dirty with actual code. My warnings were ignored. My requests for a documentation team were denied. Too expensive, they said. We'll get to it next quarter. That quarter never came. Then they hired Graham Vickers. The new CTO, 42 years old, MBA from Cornell. He spoke in buzzwords: disruption, leveraging the cloud, standardization. He looked at my 18 years of work and saw a legacy system, a problem to be solved, a cost to be cut. He hired 3 junior engineers right out of college. Had them follow me around asking questions they didn't have the experience to understand. I answered them, but I knew. I felt it in my gut. The walls were closing in. My wife saw it before I did. They're pushing you out, Victor. You need to prepare. I didn't want to believe it. I thought I was indispensable. I was wrong. The meeting was called as a quarterly check-in. I should have known. Graham and Diane from HR sat across from me. The severance package was generous. 2 months' salary. Graham looked almost disappointed when I didn't fight. When I didn't scream or cry, he said, "What would you like me to say?" Most people have questions, I said. Seems pretty straightforward to me. What he didn't understand was that I wasn't calm. I was just done. There's a difference. The anger was there, but it was a cold, hard stone in my stomach. Not a fire. I packed 18 years into a single cardboard box. A few mementos, photos. I nodded goodbye to colleagues who couldn't meet my eye, driving home to Lake Ontario. The silence in my truck was deafening. My phone buzzed. A text from Alan, my database administrator. "Victor, the whole team's freaking out." What happened? I didn't respond. At home, I sat on my deck. The sunset painted the water copper. Elaine put a hand on my shoulder. "What will you do now?" I shrugged. "Something will turn up." And I took a sip of bourbon. And I decided I would do nothing. You see, Graham didn't know the full truth. I hadn't just built their systems. I had custom-coded massive sections of it, with no documentation. Because they never approved it. The deep redundancies, the hidden security layers, the intricate architecture that kept everything running, only I understood it. and I was not going to explain it to anyone. The first call came 2 weeks later. Graham, voicemail, Victor. We're having some issues with the tenant portal. The junior team is struggling with your code architecture. Call us back. Just a quick consultation. I deleted the message. The calls kept coming. More desperate each time. Diane from HR offered $300 an hour. Generous compensation. I said, I'll think about it. I did not think about it. Alan texted me. System's been down all day. Graham's losing his mind. Then an email appeared. Lawrence Devlin, director of Devlin Systems, a competitor. Heard about your situation. We've always admired your work. Would you like to discuss opportunities? I met him. He offered me the position of Chief Systems Architect. A 20% raise? Stock options, why me? I asked. There are cheaper engineers? Lawrence laughed. We tried cheap. It crashes. We need reliable. We need you. I accepted. Meanwhile, Graham showed up at my house. On my porch. His designer glasses were crooked. His suit was wrinkled. Victor, please. The entire system is down. Nothing is working. $500 an hour. Anything. Name your price. I looked at him. The man who said I was too expensive. I'm sorry, Graham, but I have a new job. Something turned up. I closed the door on his stunned face. For the first time I felt peace. Not revenge. Peace. At Devlin I was building something new. Something proper. With documentation. With a trained team. No single points of failure. Alan, my old DBA, came to see me. He had quit. He showed me emails. Graham had been planning my termination for months. He told the board my systems were unnecessarily complex, that I made myself indispensable by design. He promised to replace me with cheap engineers and save $1 million a year. It was never about modernizing. It was about dressing the company up for a quick sale to private equity. The chaos was worse than I thought. Backup systems were corrupted. Historical data was lost. Their biggest client, Westbrook Properties, was ready to jump ship. Graham called again. His voice was broken. The board is questioning me. Westbrook is leaving. Name your price? Anything? I said. It's not about price, Graham. It's about respect. Then he threatened me. There could be legal implications if you intentionally made the systems difficult. I'm off. My voice turned to ice. The system is exactly as it was when you repeatedly denied my request for a documentation team. Every line of code is yours. Have your lawyers call mine? I hung up. My hands were steady. The cold stone of anger had melted into certainty, the ultimate irony. Lawrence from Devlin called me in. Westbrook Properties was ditching Valaria. They wanted to come to us. They would fund our expansion. In the final twist. The private equity firm wanted to sell the crumbling remains of Valaria. There was only one serious buyer. Devlin Systems. We bought my old company for pennies on the dollar. I stood back in the lobby. The sign now read Devlin Integrated Property Management. Former colleagues looked at me with a mix of fear and hope. Graham was gone. Fired. I wasn't there for revenge. I was there to do a job. To build something better. To integrate what was left of my old work into something new and stable. 1 year later, I sat with Lawrence again. The board approved my new proposal. Not for a raise, not for a bigger title, for a technical education division. To teach the next generation how to build things right. How to value quality over quick fixes. To ensure what happened to me would never happen to anyone else. As I drove home along Lake Ontario, I thought about value. About experience. I hadn't sought revenge. I simply moved forward and built something better. And in the end, the results spoke for themselves. Loudly, revenge isn't always about screaming and yelling. Sometimes it's silence. It's stepping aside and letting the consequences of someone else's arrogance play out. The market doesn't lie. It always reveals true value in the end. If this story of quiet professional vengeance was satisfying, hit that like button. It really helps the channel. Tell me in the comments what you would have done in my situation. And of course, subscribe for more incredible real-life stories of karma and payback. Thanks for watching.